Before we begin, promise me something. Watch this video until the end. The last plate served and the final choice made will mean more if you savor every moment leading up to them. Chapter 1: Harbor Street Beginnings. Everyone in the Harbor Street neighborhood knew Mina's song and Eli Navarro. Even as children, they moved through their small Seattle world like twin comets, orbiting the same corner market where Eli's father stocked crates of lychees, and Mina's mother taught her to fold dumplings with a poet's patience. After school, they drifted to the back kitchen, where oil sizzled and the radio hummed, and the air smelled like star anise, vinegar, and possibility. Eli learned chords on a battered guitar his uncle had left behind, and Mina timed her chopping to his rhythms. He would play a new riff. She would set a pot to boil. She learned to make broths with a soul, and he learned that home could be a sound. On summer nights, they walked the long way home past the lake, inventing futures. He would talk about forming a band. She would talk about a restaurant where strangers felt like cousins. Then came the sort of day you do not plan for. A Sunday that turned into a hospital corridor, a word like absence stretching through months. After the service, when everyone left covered dishes on folding tables, Mina and Eli slipped outside to the alley. There, grief tilted them toward each other. They kissed once, twice, then retreated into the hush that follows a storm. The silence that grew afterward was not angry, just unfinished. And unfinished things can be harder to carry than endings. Chapter 2: Leaving and Staying. Mina left for culinary school with a single suitcase and a folder of recipes written in pencil. She took a night bus that smelled like coffee and antiseptic, staring into the dark glass where her face hovered with equal parts courage and fear. In kitchens across the country, she learned the language of fire and patience. She learned to build a menu like a story. She learned to be precise with knives and generous with salt. She learned that talent gets you in the door, and resilience keeps you there. Eli stayed. He helped his father at the market in the mornings and tuned his guitar before gigs at the Cats and Kettle, a small bar where neon light fell like soft rain. His band, North Lake Static, played songs that peeled paint and made strangers lean close. The neighborhood leaned on him, too. When Mrs. Klein's delivery van stalled, Eli was there with a toolbox. When the old grill broke at the corner faux spot, he was there with a borrowed wrench and steady hands. They did not speak, not for years. Their lives stretched in different directions, like two lines that had once shared a point. People would say their names together, then stop, as if catching a sound they no longer heard. What they carried from each other stayed quiet and alive, like a seed biting its season underground. Chapter 3: The Return with Knives and Songs. Years later, Mina came home with 2 knives in a roll and a plan to open a short-run pop-up. The kind that appears for 12 weeks and stirs an old neighborhood into new hunger. She rented the old tailor shop on the corner, swept dust out of its bones, and strung low lights across the ceiling. Her menu, she decided, would be a love letter to Harbor Street, written in scallion oil and toasted rice. She posted a photo of a noodle dish on the pop-up social account, and within an hour Eli's bassist sent it to the band chat. At practice that night, someone said, "Don't be weird about it." Eli laughed the way people laugh when the floor shifts. He went anyway, arriving late, hair damp from rain, the night air smelling like cedar and memory. He did not expect her to look different, but she did. The difference wasn't her haircut or the line of tattoos along her forearm. It was her poise, the way she settled a bowl as if it had a heartbeat. Their eyes met through steam. She smiled, small but real, and came to his table with a dish of noodles slick with garlic and history. "No apologies," she said. "Just this." He twirled his chopsticks and let the first bite take him somewhere warm, somewhere old. He did not have words ready, but he had appetite, and sometimes that is wiser. Chapter 4: Another Orbit. The pop-up became a rumor that grew into a line. Food writers came, then photographers, then well-dressed people who talked with their hands. One of them was Atticus Vale, a shout of a movie star known for method acting and gold statues. He took up space the way fame does, lightly and everywhere. He asked to meet the chef, and Mina stepped from the kitchen, cheeks flushed from heat. He spoke about sustainability and the theater of dining. He was thoughtful in a way that could pass for devotion. There were dates. Mina, who had been married to her work for years, tested what it felt like to accept admiration with no catch. Atticus invited her to a restaurant where servers explained the carbon footprint of the tasting menu before pouring. The meal tasted like a debate. The dessert was a suggestion, sweet air trapped in a glass. Eli, invited along as part of Mina's friends, watched the performance with a musician's skepticism. He felt like a guitar in a museum, appreciated, not played. Afterward, Eli walked Mina home past shop windows full of their old city. He told her the band had been offered a slot opening for a touring act. She told him about a call from a New York investor who could make her pop-up permanent if she would move. They laughed at the timing. She said, "Remember when we thought the biggest decision we'd ever make was which lake to walk around?" He said, "I still vote for the long way." Chapter 5. Smoke and Signals. On a Friday, the fire flared. It wasn't dramatic, just a lick of flame that reminded them the gods of restaurants are capricious. Smoke kissed the ceiling, and the fire alarm keened like a disappointed ant. Customers evacuated into the drizzle. Mina stood on the sidewalk with her crew, face streaked, apron singed. Eli arrived within minutes, carrying a toolbox and the insistence that most disasters could be persuaded to behave. He replaced a fuse, cleaned out vents, and stayed past midnight when the city had gone tender and quiet. They sat on milk crates outside by the dumpsters, where so many good conversations happen. She told him the worst part of that quiet, after the funeral years ago, was how it made her feel like the past should be a secret. He told her he had written a song that summer, and never played it for anyone. Then he played it softly, words turned down, the melody a hand held out. In the morning, Mina put up a sign, "Closed tonight, cooking something truer." The next evening, she served a simple menu. No phones, no theater. Just a broth that tasted like patience, a dumpling that tasted like a kitchen with a radio, and two kids timing their lives to a simmer. People ate and leaned back and closed their eyes. When the last bowl went out, Mina felt something settle in her chest. Not a decision, but the place a decision would land. Chapter 6. The Long Way Around. The New York offer arrived in a crisp email that made everything sound inevitable. Atticus, who knew cameras and grand gestures, said he could introduce her to a circle that would widen into a world. His eyes were kind, but in them Mina saw a room she wasn't sure belonged to her. Eli, for his part, got a phone call from a touring band. 6 weeks, 10 cities, no guarantees except the stories you pick up when you sleep on floors. They argued, not about each other, but about gravity. He said, "I'm not an accessory to your life. If I come with you, it has to be because it's our choice." She said, "If you ask me to stay, it has to be because you know who I am." It was the oldest argument. How to carry love alongside self without dropping either. They did not solve it that night. So Mina went to New York for a weekend. She tasted kitchens like test flights. She stood in a gleaming dining room with marble sound and asked herself if echo and applause could fill the space that had once been a radio by a market stall. Eli left for Portland and Spokane, and a town where the venue was a living room, and the tip jar was a coffee can. He sang in rooms where people could see his hands, and left with enough money for gas, and a story he wasn't ashamed of. Atticus, to his credit, told Mina at a late-night diner that he admired her, but he admired the idea of her even more, and that was not fair to either of them. They parted with courtesy and a relief that tasted like strong tea. On the bus back to Seattle, Mina opened her phone to a message. A video of Eli playing that unfinished song, eyes closed, breath steady, the caption reading, "I'm taking the long way around." Are you? Chapter 7, Harbor and Hearth. She arrived at dawn. Harbor Street was the color of coffee and cloud. Mina unlocked the pop-up and stepped into a room that had waited without sulking. She brewed tea, said stock to Burble, and called a sign painter. By noon, a new name gleamed above the door, Harbor and Hearth. Under it, smaller letters read, "A home for the neighborhood." Eli returned that night with road on his shoes, an apology in his throat. He didn't need it. Mina told him she hadn't chosen New York or a man made of burnished light. She had chosen a table that could hold both her ambition and the bowl she learned to fill beside a radio. He told her the road had been a good teacher, but he was done learning from distances. They stood in the doorway of the place that had not existed yesterday and finally finished what they had started years ago in an alley with grief in the air. Opening night, they fed everyone who had ever fed them. The man who fixed the neon sign, Mrs. Klein with the stubborn van, the high school music teacher who lent Eli a better guitar for a year and never asked for it back. The menu read like a map of their neighborhood: scallion pancakes and grilled fish rubbed with lemongrass, noodle soups whose broth hugged the throat, a dessert of candied ginger, and the softest yuzu custard. Eli's band played in the corner without a stage. The room hummed like a heart. Late, after the last table was wiped down and their feet were tired in the satisfying way, they locked the door and stepped outside into night that smelled like possibility and dish soap. They did not swear giant oaths. They made practical promises. He would help her fix what broke and not try to fix what shouldn't be. She would let him leave for a week to follow a song and not call that leaving. And when success came calling again, as it would, they would answer together, with both hands on the same receiver. There is a certain look that people have when they find their place. Something near the eyes that says they belong to themselves and to someone else without surrender. Mina had that look. Eli did too. A man walking by with takeout and a brown bag could have seen it. If he had paused, he would have noticed the new sign above the door and the old light in their faces, and he might have thought, as I do now, that some stories were always headed here, along the long way, through kitchens and courts, toward a table that finally fits. If this tale nourished your heart, please subscribe to the channel, activate notifications so you never miss a new story. Give this video a like, leave a comment with your favorite moment, and share it with someone who loves a good second chance.